Good afternoon, everyone. I am Kevin Bryant, and happy Wednesday, actually. We are here with Culture Talk Live. Yay! Studio audience, all that stuff. I wanted to say I want to shout out to the Heat Seekers for bringing this to us. Shout out to Red Dread, Lady J, everybody else that's joining us today. We have a special guest, and I know all of y'all want to hear this. So we got a special guest, Chris A. Matthews, therapist, relationship coach, author, everything. So he's going to put it down and tell us about our relationships. So what's up, Chris?
How you doing, man? A pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
I just thought about that Chris Cross did a song. What up, Chris? And I said, what's up, Chris? It took me back for a minute, but anyway.
Nice.
So tell us, I've been hearing a lot about you got a new book. Get your relationship fix.
Yeah, so Finding Your Relationship Fix was a book that I authored after doing thousands of hours of couples counseling. I'm out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and one of the things that I realized is that as a couples counselor, a lot of people that I serviced, it was their first time in any type of counseling whatsoever. And I wanted to write a book that helps people navigate that space because there are a lot of questions when you enter any type of counseling, especially working with your partner. So the book is really a guide for those who are seeking relationship advice, guidance, or counsel. And it helps you navigate that space of finding a therapist, identifying the traits that you need to look for in a counselor, and more importantly, how the therapist is going to approach fixing the issues and concerns you're bringing into therapy.
That's a good point. Wow. So what inspired you to actually do the book, though? Like, what inspired you to do the book? And tell us your background.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I'm out of Charlotte. I met my wife over 16 years ago when we were in undergrad, and we've been married 13 years, 3 kids. And what I realized is that when we first hooked up and got together, there were no instructional manuals on how to be a good relationship partner.
Right.
So we had to learn through trial and error. We actually got pregnant before our prospective time. We were freshmen in college, and you get that call, got a baby coming. So a lot of my friends, they were being dads. Like, I'm gonna be a good dad. And I was like, hold up. What about being a good relationship partner too?
Yeah.
So I took the road less traveled. Instead of just having a baby mama, I said, no, I want to have a family. I want to have a wife. I want to have a kid. So I had to learn a lot really quick. Right? Like I had to go at warp speed. So from that process, I learned a lot. And then I went back to school and got a master's degree in marriage and family therapy because I wanted to know not just how to play the instruments of a partner. I wanted to also know how to read the notes, read the music. So I wanted to learn the theories and the clinical concepts and the languages. And then every day I have an opportunity to translate the book into real world practice with couples.
Yeah. That's up. That's what's up. So, relationships today are not the same as they were back in the day. All right. So did you find it being challenging for you to really try to hone in on what relationships need or what type of fix they needed?
So it actually came to me in a session. I use a screening tool with all my clients, and I ask them 4 questions, and I'll give them the opportunity to provide a number. And the 4 questions were, how safe do you feel with your partner? And safety looks like the ability to work with finances, the ability to be secure in the monogamy or your partner's not cheating on you, or the ability to know your partner's not out doing drugs. So that was the first one. Second, I said, how heard do you feel by your partner? Your partner's ability to listen. Then I transitioned into ask, how understood do you feel by your partner? Does your partner know why you do what you do? Why you say what you say? Are they in tune with what you want? And last but not least, how loved and cared for do you feel by that partner? And over the course of asking these questions, I developed the consensus that all the issues typically stemmed under the lack of one of those 4 feelings. And that's really the foundation of the book, to be able to simplify the issues and align them with a feeling.
Is it true that the issues come from each individual's past and all their experiences, and they bring their experiences into the current situation or relationship, however you want to put it? Is that the case in most of your experience?
That's a big part of it. It's a recipe. You have your baggage, right? Which you have experienced prior to meeting that person. You
Right.
have your now, the experiences you had with prior relationship partners, or either what your partner's shown you. And then you have a future that you're working toward. So a relationship is really the shared space. Learning how to go from I to we is a process that takes a lifetime. And being able to get a therapist that's well trained to help you navigate that space, or reading a book like I've written to be able to give you tools and techniques on how to navigate that space is really important.
So you got, it's basically a book and like a workbook, kind of. You have exercise.
Yeah, so I do have separate workbooks, and all this is available on Amazon, by the way. So the workbooks are broken into 4 sections as well that talk about those particular feelings that I mentioned earlier. So one of the best activities in the workbook is a workbook around safety. And if you're on Amazon and you type my name in, Chris A. Matthews, all my products come up. The workbook has an activity where couples get to decide across a list of different behaviors if they define that as cheating or not cheating. And that's a conversation partners aren't having. A lot of times people may not enter into a relationship asking, hey, do you believe this is breaching the boundary of cheating? And we assume you should know how I felt. You should already have known that was wrong. People don't know. You got to have those conversations with your partner. So the books and the workbooks are really designed to help you start those dialogues and to keep those conversations going. Because Kevin, at the end of the day, a marriage, a relationship, it's a lifestyle. It's not just something you in.
Right. Let's touch on that for a second. You talked about cheating, because I know that comes up a lot.
That's the biggest one. Yes.
Right. So what you're saying is cheating may not necessarily be wrong in a relationship. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that you have to define what's right and wrong for you and your partner. That's a conversation y'all both have to have.
Gotcha.
I, as the therapist, don't tell you what you want. Your partner can't tell you what you want either. You have to be able to first know for you so you can communicate that to your partner. Right. And a lot of times people will assume. So with the couples that I counsel, especially in this day and age with the internet, social media, someone might not know that liking the girl's pictures with the big butt or the guy with the muscular shoulders and arms, your partner might not like that. They might have an insecurity when you're on Instagram or on Facebook talking to an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend. But if you don't have that dialogue and the know, then you're hurting your partner, because all infidelity and cheating is when you breach a boundary. But what happens if you didn't know that boundary even existed?
So what about this? This is a great question too. People always ask, is it if a person is insecure and the other person do things that make them insecure, whose fault is that? Whose job is it to work on that?
I think it's both partners' jobs.
And
we in the middle. And I'll go a little bit further than that, and I'll even give you a personal example. So my wife and I, we don't have opposite sex friends that we're attracted to. Now I have colleagues that I might speak to that are females, but my wife knows these people, and I'm talking to them within the confines of business. So we personally know ourselves. So if you meet a partner and you know how they are, you know how you are, then you're making a choice to be that way together. I'm a jealous guy, she's a jealous gal. So we made a choice to be 2 jealous people that don't have outside friends that we would be attracted to. That works for us. Certain partners might have outside friends that they're bringing to the relationship, and they're not jealous people, they're secure, and that works for them. So it's not a one size fits all. It's a relationship size fits all, meaning you have to figure out what fits in that relationship. And then you find a partner that fits what you want, and vice versa. If I had a female that wasn't my wife that had a lot of male friends, I wouldn't pursue her. That was something that attracted me to my wife. I was drawn to her based on how she already was, not someone I tried to make her out to be.
Wow. Well, I mean, but sometimes people show you a part of, or show you an image of them that's not necessarily it. They're just doing it to get you to be attracted to them. So what about that?
So we all do that naturally. I call it your representative, right? Everybody wants to put the representative forward. And my wife and I, we did that. She told me she was into jazz music, and I put some jazz music on. She was like, why you got that on? And I was like, well, your online profile said that you listen to jazz music. So, I mean, we do that just in human nature, but it don't need to be on no big stuff, right? Like it could be on something small, right? But when it comes to big things, you want to put your best foot forward. And the way you get around that, the way you make sure that you're assessing for if your partner is putting their best foot forth. You have to be in a relationship long enough where there are trials and tribulations that you can get past. So when people come into counseling and they'll tell me an issue they had, I get excited. And the partner's like, Chris, that's a bad thing. Well, you'll learn for next time. Like if you don't have those experiences, then how you gonna get better?
That's true. You said something there. I don't know if you meant to say it yet, but you did say her online profile. So you're accustomed to dating online. You found your wife online.
I was very intentional. So my actual my sister, she met her husband online. My dad, he got remarried. He met his new wife online, and they've been together 25 years. And my wife and I, we met. We were actually at two separate schools. I was in Charlotte, and she was in Western North Carolina at a school. And I just recall being intentional. I wanted to seek out a dating partner, and I didn't want to go to the bar scene. I went into the club scene, which is the most common route a lot of people in college would pursue. And it just worked out where I had an opportunity to talk to my wife on the phone for several weeks. We talked for 6 weeks before we even met. So we had a strong foundation via, email, letters, and talking on the phone. So before the physical thing got all up in the mix, we were able to connect emotionally first. And that was the route we chose, and it worked out well for us, 16 years, 13 years later, married.
Wow, that's amazing. Now that needs to be celebrated and broadcast upon. So you said y'all talked for 6 weeks, right?
Yes.
So do you remember when y'all officially met? Can you describe that for us just a little?
Yeah, and I talk about this in my book as well. When I met my wife, it wasn't the love at first sight. It wasn't all of the, oh my gosh, I'm going to be with you forever. Instead, it was the hands of God coming down on my shoulders with a calm and peace. My wife is my peace. And I use this example, PEAC, peace, and then like a piece of something. She provides me that peace of mind. But if you look at biblical terms, God made woman from the rib. So my wife is my missing piece. She's that rib that is now interjected back into me. So I'm now whole and I can be complete with her. And then that provides me peace to maneuver through my life, to be successful in business, to be a good father, to be a good steward to others, because I'm at peace, because I'm now complete with her.
Peace meaning peace, and peace meaning a piece of something.
Yes.
See that right there. That's a good one. Is that in your book?
It's actually not in my book. I'm actually working on another book where I'm sharing the story around how my wife and I met, the journey from boyhood to manhood, because I was 20 years old, just turned 20, and you find out you're going to be a father. A lot happens really quickly in that period of time. And that's what really inspired me to do this work, because my wife and I, we were relationship underdogs. Our parents didn't want us to have a kid. We were the golden children, first in our family. Like, she was the first in her family to go to college, and I'm following the footsteps of a brother and sister who went to college. And it was just a very tumultuous situation. So I can relate to couples and dating partners when you have those trials and tribulations. And I bring that into the work that I do with people, that authenticity. I'm not just trying to be here acting like I know it all. A good therapist is willing to be vulnerable enough to go on a journey with the client.
That's very
true. Sometimes that journey is reciprocal. I'm learning from my clients just like they're learning from me.
Right. That's awesome. So, okay. So we did the cheating thing. We did, when you talk about relationships, especially the way I grew up, you have your mom and dad and the 2 kids and all that, the 2.5 kids, because you got the dog, the white picket fence. And how much do you think, or in your interpretation of how things have changed, what do you think about relationship status today in our culture? Since we're on culture talk, we got to talk about the culture. Yeah. So how much do you think has changed?
I think it hasn't necessarily changed. I believe it's just continuing to evolve. And I actually appreciate the fact that therapy, for example, was stigmatized, and still maybe a little bit, but people are being more open to getting help. The evolution around, and this is something I miss. I recall, going to my grandfather's house and being in his community, and everyone knew everyone. So right. I feel like depending on the region you grew up in, the cultures change marriages and change families, because we don't that as much as we used to have that communal feel. Everyone's afraid. The pandemic didn't help out either. Everybody was in isolation and quarantine for almost 2 years. So I believe that it's in us, and I hope to rebirth some of what we lost when it came to community. But the family structure has always looked unique. When you think about even multiple generations ago, grandparents have been raising kids for generations. You've had same-sex couples for generations. Now it's just starting to be legalized, but that's been happening for several decades, years. Like, this isn't anything new. You've had blended families for decades, for centuries. This is not anything new. So I don't believe that the culture is changing. I believe we're just now being more accepted of it. But it's always been here.
Right, or exposed to it. That's interesting because a lot of advice, relationship advice, is mainly heterosexual relationship advice. And now you got, I mean, I don't want to mess up any letters or anything like that, but you got LGBT, all those other, the We Are the World letters. Right. Yeah. And it's like you got to include everyone now. You have to think about how everyone feels and how everyone thinks about something. So it's like, wow, but it really been around forever, like you say. It's always been, just now being exposed to it. So in your line of work, how does that help you?
So this is something I realized. Despite your sexuality, if you're in a same-sex relationship, heterosexual, or even transgender, the relationship tools and principles are going to apply to all people. No matter your sexuality or what you relate to or you classify as, you want to feel safe, you want to feel heard, you want your partner to understand you, and you deserve to be loved and cared for.
Gotcha.
Now, having been challenged recently to do research to learn more about same-sex marriages and relationships, there are differences. Unfortunately, the pandemic has negatively impacted same-sex relationships when it comes to the stigmas and the trials and tribulations that they have to go through. So we can't sit here and act like everybody's on an equal playing field. Even when you talk about women's rights, that issue's still big. Women shouldn't be paid less than men, right? We're still dealing with things that we should have been passed a long time ago.
Yep.
I don't believe someone should be ostracized or not given the same opportunity because of who they chose to love. That's not going to be something I ever approve or stand for. And that's why I love the work I do, because relationship issues differ in certain ways, but a lot of the things that we talk about are the same across all relationships and people.
Yeah, it's interesting because, we are human and we all have souls, and the soul has no gender to a degree. So it's like, but we all still feel and desire the same type of, appreciation and love from each other. So I think it's just hard to wrap my head around it, because the way I grew up is one way, but now I'm exposed to so much, and I'm like, wow. So you got to reopen your mind and think about it, because it's really all the same when you think about it.
All the same, and the thing is that, I'll be the first to be honest. Like, most of my experiences come from a heterosexual lens, because that's the relationship that I have. But there were opportunities that I've had to counsel same-sex relationships, and what I realized is that their needs and issues when it came to the solutions were equivalent to a heterosexual relationship. There's cheating and infidelity, there's trust issues, substance abuse issues, their child rearing issues, their financial issues, their communication issues. The issues don't discriminate. So, I mean, I've been able to work with individuals, and at the end of the day, when you look at therapy in general, it's about an alliance. It's about a connection you have with the therapist. And, a lot of the research shows that 90% of the success in therapy comes by way of that alliance and the relationship you got with the therapist.
Right. It's interesting. Therapy is I study behavioral psychology, so I understand everything that you're talking about. But it's like, we talk to people and we help them, but who helps us? So that's what I think about sometimes. But going back to say, when you named all the challenges, what do you consider the most challenging situation in a relationship?
The most challenging situation is when one partner doesn't love themselves enough.
Say that one more time.
When one partner doesn't love themselves.
Let's talk about that, because I hear that a lot lately. I watch TikTok religiously, and they always talk about self-love. And I know some people don't understand that when they don't love themselves. Or what exactly is loving yourself? What is that in your mind?
So loving yourself is having, and I talk about this in the book a lot actually. Loving yourself is having a standard that you're willing to meet for you, and a standard you're going to hold other people accountable to as well.
Oh.
And the first is knowing you. So, for example, when my wife and I got together, we imposed a standard upon each other that we would love each other enough to break up before we cheat. A lot of couples that I counsel, one partner might say, I would never be with someone that hit me, but you're with this person who beats you. Or I would never be with someone who cheated on me, but you're with this person who cheats on you. I would never be with someone that doesn't have a job, but you're with this person who doesn't have a job. So those are hard cases to work with because the person is now living outside of their own truth. If you said to yourself you weren't going to do something, but you're doing it, then who am I to impose upon you what you said you weren't going to do?
Wow. So I've known for people to say they wouldn't do something until they got involved and then they learned that they're dealing with something. Would you say that's a good thing? Because I know you said before we decide to cheat, I mean, we'll break up before we cheat. Would you say that that's like a reputable statement to the point where you really would? Because I mean, y'all been together so long, and it's like y'all really do love each other. If this did happen as a mistake, you don't allow mistakes. Is that a deal breaker? Like, how does that work?
Good question. So it goes back to what you believe, right? I believe in myself enough to know that although I might be able to forgive, I couldn't live with that constant scar. So self-love and self-worth starts with truly getting to know you. I know me enough to present to my wife. She knows herself enough to present to me. And then at the end of the day, it's discipline. I'm disciplined enough to align my needs and wants. And don't get me wrong, you can be flexible, you can alter certain things, but you need to have those concrete values and principles that you stand on. So my wife and I build a relationship that stands on certain principles. And you know, your original question was, what's hard to deal with? So I counsel clients that have these issues, and we can get through the process, but it makes it a lot more challenging when the person says they want one thing and there's no metric or meter to measure change or success. Because if this person cheats on you repeatedly and you're staying with this person, but you came into counseling saying you didn't want to be cheated on, at the end of the day, it's not your job to control another person's actions. All you can control is your response and your own actions.
Right.
So at that point, I suggest that clients do individual therapy in conjunction to couples counseling. So you're actually able to go and reevaluate what you said you wanted or didn't want.
Right. So let's do this. Let's talk about when people get together in relationships. Normally you have someone that plays the role of a narcissist, then the other one that plays the role of the empath. Do you find that true across the board, or can it be empath, narcissist? How do you even see that?
So narcissistic personality disorder is something that's a buzz right now. I actually did a video on gaslighting behaviors.
I was going to go there next.
No, I prefer to extract the behavior from the mental health diagnosis. And this is why. Because a lot of people who are doing gaslight videos and narcissistic personality videos don't have any credentials, right? So you're not even trained to even talk about that. So I don't go in that realm. And although I'm a licensed mental health professional, that's not something I specialize in. So I try to be mindful of only speaking about what I specialize in, even though I have experience in terms of education and I understand it. But with all that being said, it's really the behaviors, not necessarily the diagnosis. So if a person is exhibiting a certain behavior or an action, then it's up to you to determine how much of that you're going to tolerate or not. Right. That's how I look at it. And to be very simplistic about it, if someone doesn't listen to you or they're making you think that you're crazy because they said that they weren't cheating and you saw them cheating, then at that point you have to have your own sanity intact before you allow someone to make you think that you're crazy. So once again, it goes right back to self. What are your principles? What are your values? You got to have some anchors.
That's
you got to anchor yourself to your own truth, or you're going to fall for anything. You heard the phrase, you're either going to stand for something or fall for anything, right? So what are you standing for? And just because you're in a relationship, it doesn't take away your individuality. It still starts with you, right? It isn't the relationship the shared space. It's the shared space. It's not all of you. No, you bring all of you into it, which means you can take all of you out of it as well.
Wow, you mentioned some things. That shared space thing that you talked about too. Like at what point do you release your part of the space, or how much do you release, and what increment do these happen? I guess is what I'm trying to ask you.
It's ebb and flow. And I think about my own relationship. My wife and I met, we were kids. Like we were able to grow into adults together. So I had to allow her to make decisions. Like when we had the baby, for example, our first child, I wanted her to come to Charlotte. In my mind, I was like, okay, leave your school, come to my school. I'll have a house for us. We'll have a family. No, she wanted to be at a different school because she already had her credits there. She had her community there. Who am I to then take her away from what she already had? So that was the space to allow her to be her. And it worked out for the best because I had my space to be me. So in relationships, I always tell couples, those who are listening, don't lose your identity for the person. Allow you and that person to create a separate identity.
A separate identity.
You got to be you. Yeah. And a lot of the theorists, a lot of the work that I read and study, it talks about that. It's a term called differentiation of self. You need to know you. You can't have something, and you'll hear couples say, "You're my everything." That should be dangerous if someone tells you they're their everything, because when you need them to be something, they're basically telling if without you they're nothing. So what happens when your partner needs you, or you need them, but you're their everything? Right? Like, so
that's a good way of looking at it. I tend to think when they say you're like everything, I don't think they really mean what they're saying, because nobody can be everything. But people do say that, That's interesting too. Like, so let me ask you this: in a relationship, like yours, at what point, what's private and what's not? Because people bring that up a lot.
So when it comes to your intimate life, your sex life, when it comes to arguments that you and your partner have had, when it comes to major decisions that you guys need to make, might take days to process, all that needs to be private. When your partner hurts you, that needs to be private. And the reason why, and I talk about this in a portion of my book, I have a whole section on boundaries. If you're dating someone and you get in a fight, and then you tell your family and friends, you and that person make up, what's going to happen when you now bring that person around your family and friends? Right. They're going to be seeing that person through the lens of the fight. They're going to see that person through the lens of they hurt you. So that's another reason why. The other reason, if you're talking about family and friends and you're talking with them pertaining to financial issues that you and your partner are having, let's say your partner loses his job or her job, and you tell the family and friends how you feel. When that partner comes around, they're now going to be looking at that other person with a side eye or something. And you don't want that. It creates drama that's unnecessary. So I always advise people, if you feel like it can evoke emotion, meaning it makes the person you're telling, family or friend, see your partner in a negative light or unpleasant light, don't talk about it. Keep that between y'all two.
Yeah, that's hard. What about privacy situations within the relationship? Do you think it's fair for your partner to go through your phone? Do you think it's fair for your partner to ask you where you've been? Or do you think it's necessary for the partner to tell them, hey, I'm gonna be here? Or what's the right thing to do? Well, what's the practical thing to do?
So there are two parts to that question. Okay. The first part is going to be relationships are an agreement between two people. So if you guys have set those agreements up, then that's between you and your partner. The second part is how I view my own relationship. I believe in openness. My wife can pick my phone up, go through my social media. She has all my passwords as I have hers. The reason why is I want to have a comfort at night where I can lay my head down and my partner doesn't speculate that I'm doing anything I'm not supposed to. So I believe in openness for my own comfort. As it relates to other people, that's something they may come to counseling and negotiating process. We never really had that issue. We've always been that way. And I just do that because it goes back to that peace. I want to sustain the peace that I originally had 16 years ago when I met this woman. So to sustain my peace, looks like not having anything on my phone that could trigger her and thinking I'm doing something I'm not supposed to.
Why do you think women do that mostly? I mean, not just women, please. I don't want to get anybody flagged. I don't want to flag myself. So why do you think people, as in general, go through those? Is it just basically on those insecurities that they have had, or is it when the partner seems to be one of those private people and do certain things? Whose responsibility is that?
I think it's intuition for a lot of people. For example, a lot of the couples that I counsel where infidelity ensued, the partner would say, I never wanted to go through their phone or social media, but for some reason, something told me to pick it up. And every time they picked it up, they found something they shouldn't have seen or they didn't want to see, which is that partner cheating. So I believe that people don't naturally have that desire. And if you do, that means that there was some past hurt that you haven't dealt with. Like my wife doesn't naturally have a desire to want to go through my phone.
Right.
I don't have a desire to want to have to go through her phone because I'm secure. So people do it to search for security. We look, it's almost like, I use the analogy, if you have little kids, I have a 3-year-older, a 5-year-older, and a 14-year-older, okay? The 3-year-older might say, I'm scared at night. Something's in the closet. So I go in the closet, I cut the light on, I show her nothing's in the closet, so she's no longer scared. We as adults do the same thing. We pick up the phone trying to go into the closet and cut the light on to make sure nothing's there. Unfortunately, if someone's telling you to go in the closet, it's usually something in the closet.
That's true, though. I never thought, like, the way we were raised as children has an effect on how we see the world. I mean, to that degree. Like, I never related that type of insecurity to, oh, it's something in the closet, and you have to show to say, oh, it's nothing in the closet. See, I never thought about it like that. That's interesting, because a lot of people put that in the pot of trust. Oh, you don't trust me. Okay, even when they're gaslighting, which is where we want to go next, because I find that gaslighting is something now that's very popular, but gaslighting been around forever. But now gaslighting is a thing. I was trying to explain gaslighting to some people, and they was like, what? But they do it all the time. How do you feel, and what's your opinion on gaslighting?
So it's a manipulation that can be conscious or subconscious. The subconscious gaslighting is people who had it done to them as a kid, where, and just break down gaslighting to make it very simplistic. Someone trying to convince you of something that you know is real, and they're trying to tell you it's not real. That's one major characteristic. Another characteristic, someone trying to tell you how you should feel versus how you do feel. And then third, someone trying to speak to you in a manipulative fashion to get you to do what they want you to do and make you feel bad about it if you choose to do what you want to do. Those are kind of the foundations of gaslighting. So some of those examples, going back to the cheating example, you know your partner got like nude pictures from someone, and they go, "Oh, honey, man, guys do this all the time. You know, guys always have naked pictures in the phone. You taking this out of control." Okay. Right. Another one would be, I don't like when you wear that dress. It makes me feel insecure. And then you go, what do you mean I don't like when you wear that dress? Well, you know, your cleavage is out and I just don't like that. So the woman goes and changes her dress, and then the man goes to the gym with his shirt off on the beach. All right. It's like, well, is that lining up? So people use it as a control mechanism. And what I find is that it's really important to know, if you have enough security in you, then you can tell someone, nah, that ain't adding up. And people don't want to be challenged, and it's like power and control. But something you said about trust before you even start talking about gaslighting, which is huge. We gotta go back to trust. Right. Trust is something that is earned every day. You don't just trust somebody one time.
Exactly. You know, some people. What about you? I'm glad you said that, because some people say, "Oh, when I meet a person or whatever, I trust 100%. I just give it all at one time, and then they take it away." But I'm like, that's crazy. I understand being given trust with a blank canvas, and when you do things, and that's what takes it away. But how do you trust somebody completely and you don't even know them?
You can't, because trust comes by way of experiences. The same way you gain trust, you lose trust through experiences.
That's
So
right.
every day you're with your partner. I use the analogy from the movie Groundhog Day. Every day the guy woke up, it was the same day. Your partner is the same way. You could buy your partner a house, a car, all these extravagant things. The next day they're like, okay, what's for breakfast? What's for today? Like that's the lifestyle of being with a person. If you're not willing to work to make that person happy, and if they're not willing to work to make you happy every day, then that's not really a relationship at that point. It needs to be reciprocated. When we get off this interview, I told my wife I was going to pick all the kids up from school today, and I made dinner, right? Well, what she's doing is she's going to make sure that tomorrow I have the opportunity not to make dinner, and I can just relax and watch TV or hang out if I want to. So we give and take based on each other's needs. And that's something she trusts me to do. She trusts to keep me picked. She trusts that I'm going to have dinner. She trusts that I'm going to come home and do bath time and homework and do all things I need to do. Because every day I'm showing her how to trust me.
Oh, wow. Now, that's the way I think you should look at it. It's your job to show her how to trust you, right? See, I agree with that too. But a lot of people feel like, no, you should just trust me. It ain't my job. And see, to me, that's like a highway to hell. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that might give some people a pass. But something else you said that really got me. What about, because you guys met on an app, dating app, correct?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
It was a website.
Very interesting. So what about the time when you're in a relationship and you guys say, okay, it's time to get off the app? Or do you do it immediately? Do you do it when you know this is going to be a good relationship? When do you say, okay, I'm not going to get on the app anymore?
So that goes into structuring the rules of the relationship. When my wife and I became serious, us becoming serious was a conversation. It was, hey, what do you need? Well, I don't need you to have opposite sex friends that you attracted to. Check. Okay. Oh, by the way, do you still have profiles open? No, I'll go ahead and take all my profiles down. Cool. Are you open with your social media? Yeah. How about you? Cool. So we actually had a negotiation of what we want and not want. Like for her, she was like, hey, I need to warm up before I introduce you to my parents. I was like, hey, you can meet my dad tomorrow. So it was a give and take. There were certain things she needed me to warm up to get to, and I needed her to warm up to get to pretty much nothing. I was just wide open, but it was a give and take. I respected her boundaries of what she needed. And
Right.
we had a pivotal moment in the relationship where she wasn't open to me emotionally about things that she had experienced. And I said, look, for us to get to the next level, I need to hear more about you from just underneath the surface. And she chose to go to that level.
Right. What do you do when, let's give a scenario. What do you do when two people meet like you guys met and one person is like really in love with the other person, but the other person don't know? Like how did but then they don't want to tell them, because this is a question I got. They don't want to, and I was trying to decipher how to do it. What do you do when you tell someone, when you love someone but you don't tell them that, and y'all supposed to be just friends, but one is in love and the other one is say they are, but not like that, when it's not the same? When do you have that conversation?
So a quick plug. I actually have a YouTube channel, Relationship Counseling Tools, and I have a video called Can Women Be Friends or Can People Just Be Friends?
Mm-hmm.
And in the video, I talk about how in that same situation you're describing, if you're in love with a friend and you haven't told them, then the first thing is this: you're punishing yourself. Because if that friend that you're in love with then falls in love with someone else, you're going to be sick to your stomach because you never got the opportunity to be that partner. And vice versa. If you're in love, if you have a friend that's in love with you and you know it, you have to be willing to be open enough and not play with that person's heart. So there are a lot of situations where men and women, and I'll break it down. There are a lot of men that have female friends that they just want to have sex with, and they're luring the woman on. Vice versa. You got women who have men as friends that are their safety blanket. They just tell them about the messed up dudes that they were with, even though that guy wants to be the good guy. So that happens. it's going to continue to happen. But my suggestion would be, if you're the person who loves and cares about a friend, you got to be willing to put all the chips on the table, put yourself out there. If that person feels the same way, great. If they don't, then they need to be man or woman enough to tell you so you move on. And I think a lot of times people waste time.
That's true.
Time with exes, and we waste time with friends that we should have just told that we like and figure out where we're going to go with it. So I'm a firm believer. I don't like wasting time because life's too short. And I think to your point, that's a great question, because that's been happening forever, and it's going to keep happening.
And it's going to keep happening. Yeah. Wow. When people say, I'm doing this because I'm doing this for people that really want to know some things. Like when people say forever, what does that mean to you? We're going to be together forever, or forever. What is it? Happily ever after, that kind of thing. What does that really mean? I didn't want to say that, but yeah.
Hey, look, I'm very authentic, man. I'm gonna tell you what I'm thinking immediately when you ask that question. So,
right.
When you're in grad school, you become a counselor, and we have this class that we take, and one of the questions that I recall in this course is that the professor asked, "So when do people change?" Okay, everyone had to give the answer. I believe people change when it's easier than remaining the same. So forever.
Wait. Let me get that.
People change when change becomes easier than remaining the same.
Ooh.
So if it's easier to do something different, that's when people won't change. If it's easier not to do something different, people won't change. Like, think about it. People lose weight when the doctor says, "Hey, man, you're going to die if you don't do this."
That's
okay,
right.
It's easier not to die, so let me go ahead and start losing weight.
Right.
So that's what happens in relationships. People will be together forever until forever is too hard.
Right.
If forever becomes too hard, they're going to get a divorce.
Wow. That's amazing. So the job really is work on keeping things light and easy, right? Just find out what makes things light and easy. But both people have to be willing to come to that point, where they're going to do that work instead of working on trying to keep somebody. Just work on being cool,
Keep it light and easy. I think you hit the nail on the head, and that defines my marriage. I tell people like, "Oh, you fight a lot in marriage?" Nah, light and easy.
I think we're bred to believe that when you fight and get over it, that's what makes you stronger. No, I think that makes you weaker, actually, because how many fights are you going to be able to take? It's like knocking down a wall. Eventually, it's going to break. Wow, I just rhymed. Okay.
I like that, but you said get over it. What happened if you go through? I tell people, don't get over the fight, go through the fight. Because when you go through something, you're taking stuff with you to the other side.
That's right.
So if you go through fights, that means you ain't having the same fight. If you're going over the fight, you ain't never get what you need to get through the fight. So you're going to have the same fight again.
That's a good point, too. You got some gems. Mm-hmm. Did you ever write songs? Did you ever write songs? Everything you said, I related to a song. You said through the fire, through the limit, to the wall. It's like I'm thinking of songs every time you say something. I mean, that's pretty good. So you're a solid example of what you write about in your book.
Yeah, and I'm still a work in progress, as I believe everybody else is, man. And I think I've had some really amazing experiences. Every day is an amazing experience, and I'm humbled to be invited into people's lives, into their relationships, and help them provide their partner and themselves with some relief. I use the example how if you have a good piece of food you eat or something great, you want everybody to taste it. That's how I feel about my marriage. I enjoy my marriage. I enjoy the taste of it. I want everybody to taste what I've had just with another woman or another man, right? Because we taking, but other people are out there that can enjoy what my wife and I get to enjoy.
So let me throw a few let me throw a few types of relationships at you, and I just want to get your quick opinion on those. Now we got all these different things. Polyamorous, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. They seem to be some successful relationships out there like that.
So here's the thing. I'm a firm believer in like definition, right? So if you get married and you're with this one person, and you say this one person is going to meet all my needs, then I'm going to get married to that person. Now, don't get me wrong. You got friends to meet certain needs. You have family to meet certain needs, co-workers. So my wife meets the needs that she needs to meet for me. I got friends and other people. But there's one need. When we talk about sex and intimacy, I chose to have one partner to meet all of the sex and intimacy needs that I need for me.
Got you.
Other partners that have, polyamorous and all the other types of relationships, they're basically saying, hey, I need additional people to meet these needs. I can't find, or I haven't found just one person to meet all those particular needs. And breaking that down in a non-judgmental fashion was something that I had to really work through my brain with, and talking to people that have those type of relationships and being open and putting aside my views and being open enough to hear them. That's the conclusion I've come up with. Certain people desire multiple individuals to meet certain needs. And I personally believe that marriage is a union that should only encompass the need of one person. So just don't get married. But let me back up. Everything is not Western culture. If you look around the world, there are cultures where people marry multiple people. It's been going on for thousands of years. So who am I to impose my viewpoint on other cultures? I don't believe in that. So at the end of the day, it's a matter of the person, and it goes right back to that definition of the people define the relationship, not a therapist, not parents. The two or more people within those relationships are the ones that define it.
Two or more. So you just gave it credence right there. What do you call the person that compartmentalizes? Like they get this in this compartment, there's the friends. In this compartment, there's the intimacy, and in this compartment, there's the sex.
You talking about within an intimate relationship if they did that?
Right, like if there's a person, well, they're not, I don't know, they're single, I guess, but they compartmentalize everything in their mind, and they go after this for sex, they don't mix it, then they go this for intimacy, when the separation that is between intimacy and sex, and then this person, this is where my friends are, this is where my intimacy and time spent is, that's where my sex is.
So I believe if a person does that, then it could also be the stage of life they're in. Like I have a buddy, he's a truck driver. He doesn't have the capacity based on his schedule to give all of himself and receive all of another person in all those buckets. So he has people that he may have sex with. He may have friends. He might have people that he's just confiding in. So I believe it fits the lifestyle. So what lifestyle do you want? It goes right back again to what do you want? If these individuals that are in open relationships or marriages, if that's what they're choosing, and that's making them happy, and that's providing them the peace and the ability to live life the way they need to live it, then I'm not going to judge that. Right. I let people be people. I don't ever try to impose things on people. I think everybody's trying to make someone fit into who they want them to be versus accepting people for just who they are.
Who they are. Yeah. That's the thing, though. You got to learn who they are. And that's one thing I know about trust, too. Trust is easy for me now as an adult because I trust you to be exactly who you show me that you are. If you're a liar, I trust you to be a liar. I don't trust you with the truth. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think people got to do about trust and stop faulting people for stuff that you're not ready to deal with. And I think that's all, but I'm not the relationship coach. You are. So, but you could tell us about your book and tell everybody where they can get your book.
Yeah. So Finding Your Relationship Fix, the 4 Reasons Couples Seek Counseling is available on Amazon. And the goal of the book, like I said earlier, is to help people navigate how therapy can be a benefit to your relationship. I break the book into a lot of different reasons why people come to counseling, but they're encompassed under 4 core areas, which are those feelings. People want to feel safe, they want to feel heard, they want to feel understood, and they want to feel loved and cared for. And there's no manual on being married or in a healthy relationship. When you buy a car, you sign your life away. When you buy a house, you sign your life away. When you get married, you may not even get a pamphlet, right? So it's we need resources, we need books, we need coaches, therapists. We need people like you to host segments on shows. We need all of this. It's a collaborative effort. There's not a one size fits all. There's no silver bullet to fix your relationship. Everything. My wife and I have read several books, conferences, seminars, workshops. It's a lifestyle. You don't just go to the gym and do one exercise, do you? You don't just go to the gym one time. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, you have to cultivate that lifestyle. Yeah, talk about the gym. I got to do that too. But yeah, I think everything that we approach in life should be like what you said. But I think a lot of times we don't get to do that. And I'm glad. Thank you. I appreciate you for even putting your thoughts and whatever your experiences are out there so that it can help other people, because that's what we are here to do. We're supposed to help each other. That's the whole reason of Culture Talk. A lot of times we don't get to talk about the things that go on in our culture. So platforms like this, shout out to Heat Seekers and shout out to everyone else that support us. We have to talk about it. The conversation is important, and now with things changing daily and we don't know what's going on in the world a lot, we need to come together and talk about it. So I appreciate it. Are you on social media like Facebook, Instagram? And
I am. So if you follow Relationship Counseling Tools, Relationship Counseling Tools is my tag on Instagram and Facebook, and relationshipcounselingtools.com is the website where all my products and materials are listed. Also, Relationship Counseling Tools is my YouTube channel. I have over 100 YouTube videos that are categorized in different topics. Every question you ask in my brain, I went back to a video I've already produced on that question. So viewers, please subscribe to Relationship Counseling Tools. Right now, I'm doing a lot of segments on intentional dating. I'm doing a lot of segments on premarital counseling. I believe that if we can help people get into healthy relationships at the beginning, then it's a lot easier on the back end. And the tag is, it's better to prepare and prevent than repair and repent. So let's prepare and prevent so we're not repairing and repenting.
Wow, that's a good one too. Yeah, it would be good. Tag this to your page so everybody can see you talk, because you dropped some gems today. And I don't know if people get to hear that. I just wanted to give a shout out. Well, I'm gonna let you do that. Do you have any shout outs that you want to give for anyone?
I always thank my wife. Without my wife, I wouldn't have the opportunity to be in this field and know what I know, my family. And then two, my whole team, Angelo Elderby and Kevin Goins with Double Exposure, they were the reason why I'm able to meet with you today, and they just do a good job helping me get my message out. So I always like to thank them and all those who are viewing and the people who want a healthy relationship. Like, it's possible, I promise you, there are good people out there. So I want to shout all those people out.
That's the thing too. A lot of people don't realize there are good people out there, but I think sometimes everybody's afraid. Everybody thinks everybody's bad. I live in Atlanta right now, and the horror stories I hear of Atlanta when it comes to relationships and everything, it's like, I don't know, because I don't see it like that, because I'm living here, and I guess I don't be at the places where they say or whatever, but it's a shame that how it's so many single people, but everybody wants a relationship. I don't get it.
That's true. And I think that's why I do the work, because, like I said earlier, we weren't taught. We're only going to go on the models that we may have had. So if you didn't have a good model from mom and dad or your parents or relatives or siblings, or you just got out of a horrible marriage or relationship, at that point you don't have any good examples. So one of the biggest things I do in my work is I evoke hope, just as the example my wife and I put out there. Yeah. We're able to be, the examples of, hey, we love each other, we care about each other, we're able to raise kids together. Like, we need to see more examples of it. And real examples. I'm not talking about the people who that got a bad marriage, but they want to tell everybody to shout out their wife on Facebook birthday. That's garbage.
Yeah, that's garbage.
Let's stop shouting at everybody on Facebook. My wife and I had a double date with a couple this past week, and the couple said, wow, you guys are the first people we've been in front of that didn't argue. Like, they were on a date with other couples, and the couples be arguing back and forth. And we don't have any examples of it anymore. It's like, that example of a good marriage is hard and far and few. It's hard to find.
It's hard to find. Yeah. Wow. Oh, Wow. Hold your book up one more time. Let's make sure before we go. Hold it up a little higher in the center so we get back and see it. Finding Your Relationship Fix, the 4 reasons couples seek counseling. And I think everybody really needs to see that. Thank you, Red. Chris A. Matthews. Wonderful. You know what? I really think it's a good book. Yeah, I think they got it. Thank you. I want to appreciate you and your wife, because without that union, you wouldn't probably have that book. So thank you for that. I want to shout out to all our sponsors. Shout out to Red Dread at the Heat Seekers and Lady J, and shout out to Double Exposure and Kevin Goins as well. Shout out to me, Kevin Bryant, and I'm just saying it was a good interview. Thank you. I appreciate. I learned a lot. I got some gems, and I'm prepared. I'll probably be getting my book. I'm gonna go ahead and order it. Only because I talk to people and I talk all the time, so I think that's a good thing. Any last?
I also have an audio book too, so you can download on Audible too in the car driving back and forth and listen to it as well.
Oh, cool. I do a lot of audio books because I don't have time to sit and read a lot of times.
Yeah.
Any last words that you would say? Any quote from the book? Anything that can, jar anyone to say, "Oh, I gotta get that book." What do you want to say to those people out there struggling to keep great relationships?
So, if you're in a relationship now, I always like to refer back to a line the jazz singer Sade would say in a song. She says, "I want you, but I want you to want me too." So remember that in order to be understood, you first have to be willing to understand your partner.
I want you, and I want you to want me too. Yeah, that's dope. Okay, there you have it. Chris A. Matthews. Yeah. Please go out and get the book. I think it'll be a great thing for everybody to listen to or read. So we want to do that, and make sure you support him. And please tell us one more time your social media handles.
Relationship counseling tools.
Instagram,
Facebook, and YouTube. Relationship counseling tools.
There you have it. I am Kevin Bryant. It was a pleasure speaking to Chris A. Matthews. Shout out to Heat Seekers on the behalf. This is Culture Talk, and please join us next time, and we'll be giving you what's going on in our culture. Thank you. Have a great day, sir.